One of my goals this year is to get better at Blender. So I wanted to try modeling and texturing some swords from different video game franchises in Blender to improve. By the end of this, I'm aiming to make these 5 swords from these franchises. Now, I've only used Blender to 3D model in a low poly style, so I'll stick with that since I don't really have any experience with higher poly counts. I'm also going to limit myself to 3 hours for each model so I can get this video out on time. I've never made a sword model before, so I decided to practice doing something simple. I chose the diamond sword from Minecraft. Generally, a sword has a blade and a hilt. The blade is self-explanatory, and the hilt usually consists of the pommel, grip, and guard. Since Minecraft's diamond sword is pixelated, that allows me to use some creative liberty in designing the hilt. I planned on starting with the blade. So I created a plane, extended it, then added a mirror modifier and a loop cut in the middle to give it depth. Symmetrical swords are a lot easier to create compared to swords with unique designs, which I will learn the hard way later on. The guard is just a cube with loop cuts. The grip is just a cylinder and the pommel is just a cube with insets and a bevel. I merge everything at the end. The time it took to model was around 20 minutes. I had to do some UV projection to get a UV layout, and my exported result is this. Finally, onto texturing. I won't record the texturing process because it consists of me painting and then erasing all my work and trying to redo it again. So the final outcome of the texture is this. And here's the texture applied. The total time it took was an hour. This was a very simple design, but the next few swords would all give me headaches in some way or another. After this, I wanted to challenge myself a bit more, so I decided to make the Yamato, Virgil's sword from the Devil May Cry series. The Yamato isn't some flashy sword. In fact, its appearance is remarkably clean and simple. Despite it looking pretty simple, this thing is capable of opening portals and splitting demons. Now the Yamato is a katana, which isn't symmetrical. Katanas follow a curve, so shaping the blade and grip took off a lot of time. The tip of the blade is another challenge. The Yamato also has a complicated guard. I came up with this, which isn't really low poly, but I was running out of time and I couldn't fix it. Modeling took around an hour and 45 minutes. Here is the UV layout. The texture looks like this, and I used 30 minutes for the texture. The grip and the guard for the Yamato had these very intricate details, but I had no clue how to make those textures, so I just slapped a few random dots on it. Anyways, here's what it looks like with the total time used being 2 hours and 15 minutes. Analog Exclusion Zone recommended daggers from Solo Leveling. I never watched Solo Leveling, and I don't really know anything, which makes this a little bit tougher. I just chose a random one I saw, and it was named the Night Killer. Not only was this thing not symmetrical, but it had sharp edges that extruded from the blade itself, making it very difficult to inset the model without issues. This took me forever to do. Modeling took almost 2 hours, so I decided to just use materials for every part of the sword, except for the blade. The blade would take an image texture, and finally, here's what it looks like, fully textured. I think it looks fine here, but its topography looks atrocious. The total time was around 2 hours and 15 minutes. Since my channel has some Terraria modding content, I decided to make the Zenith. I also struggled working on the sword because everything was pixelated. Unlike the diamond sword in Minecraft, the Zenith is much more detailed. I tried my best with the modeling, especially with the guard, but this is my final outcome. I focused so much time on seeing which guard looked better that I began running out of time for the textures, so I just used materials again. So I copy and pasted this shader I made for an old project to make some weird reflection, which I applied to this gem, and that was attached to the Zenith, as well as the outer parts of the blade to make it look more magical. This is the final result, with approximately 20 minutes left. For the final sword I'm making for this video, I chose Fleetly Fading, the sword that the character Scarlet uses in the hit Gunnar game NIKKE, Goddess of Victory. I started playing this game back during its first anniversary, and I fell in love with the story. During one of the most difficult moments in my life, the story event that was ongoing at the time was none other than New Year, New Sword, which features this badass version of Scarlet. Anyways, onto modeling. This sword was similar to the Yamato in form, but had these serrated edges and no guard. The serrated edges were sort of annoying because I was trying many different ways to get it to look right. The hilt wasn't hard to make, just some cubes that had to be stretched out and beveled. The hilt and the color of this version of Fleetly Fading reminded me of Jetstream Sam's Murasama, which I really wanted to make for this video but decided not to in order to get this video out on time. Modeling this took only an hour, and texturing took me 30 minutes. And this is the final sword render.
Fleetly Fading, strike!
I grabbed each sword I made, plopped them into a scene in Blender, and added a few lights and pre-made assets. This scene will serve as the base for the thumbnail of this video. Here it is rendered, here it is with some modifications, and here's the final thumbnail for this video. We're now past January and the first month of this channel, going by this Terraria mod video. This Gmod video doesn't count, it was for our college final project. I'm going to list some stats, which I hope will be useful for future viewers to track my channel's growth, and also for myself to look back on. Anyways, I'm quite happy that people are enjoying my content. I just wanted to say thanks and also direct you to the community tab, which I'm going to use to upload teasers for my future uploads. I don't think a lot of people are aware that it exists, and I want to have a lot more eyes on it since I'll have more interactive posts up there soon. Thanks for watching and goodbye.